Hello and welcome back to match 5 of the league. This one's for all the marbles. If I lose, I go 3-2, get my winnings back. If I win, I go considerably positive. If you guys are paying close attention, you already know what the outcome is, but I will still walk through it all. So I win the die roll. Interesting fact, I won basically every single match I took. I won the die roll on. That's not always standard, but going first does help. I obviously have to mulligan this. I obviously have to mulligan this. And I keep this one, which isn't great, but it's better than any 4. I put the mom hugs on top just because I need more ways to draw here in a minute. So I play the island and I see the steam vents and mom hugs. I keep both on top with the steam vents coming up next, so I can use one of the mom hugs to draw onto the next one. Now I see Windswept Heath here, which I'm not 100% sure what it is at this point. It could be Infect, it could be some kind of Coco deck, it could be Abzan, none of which are something I'm super excited to see. And I just slam the first mom hugs, discarding the Past in Flames and the Grape Shot, just kind of hoping for no main deck Surgical, because it's not common yet. Hopefully it stays that way. They get a Temple Garden tapped, and then play Eldrazi Temple. So at this point I know exactly what I'm playing against, because I'm playing against Bant Eldrazi, which is probably, out of all the decks that play Eldrazi aside from Tron, is probably the best Eldrazi matchup, because they don't do that much. So I'm going to Thought Scour myself here, and I'm going to play the Ascension before I play the next Mom Hugs. Here the guy Thought Knots me, which there's only one card to take here. Here, since I drew a Ravings, which I have one in my graveyard, I decided to just play the land, because I don't really need the ritual. So I'm going to put a counter on my Ascension this way, and I'd rather discard spells, if anything. I discard another Ascension, which is probably the best discard possible. I fetch here, because you always fetch before Searing Visions. I play it tapped because I don't actually expect to draw a 1-mana cantrip. Well, it would be nice, I'm not that greedy. And then I draw a Past in Flames, and I see a Ritual and a Grape Shot. And I keep both of those on top because I have 2 Mom Hugs in the graveyard, and I'm basically just going to be drawing a whole bunch of cards next turn. Here he plays... Ooh, he plays Eldrazi Sky Spawner, if I remember correctly. And then taps out for... Or no, he just pays 1 more to play a Spellskite, because he kills the Scion as well. So this makes me think that he has Path, but I don't actually need Electromancer to win here. So I'm just going to do a pretty quick and simple Past in Flames loop, playing a Ritual, then a Past in Flames, because when it's doubled, I just need 1 in order to cast Past in Flames. Here I end up casting the Ritual with Past in Flames on the stack, which allows me to cast both of my Ravings on the stack as well. So anything I discard will then be shuffled, or will then have flashback from the next one. It also allows me to cast spells in response to the Past in Flames that I draw, which then just keeps stuff rolling. So I'm going to Thought Scour myself here, or actually Thought Scour him twice, because I already have enough to win at this point. I'm just trying to figure out what he's playing, and I see 2 Smashers and some lands, so nothing super interesting. And I Thought Scour him twice more. I see a Drowner and another Thought Knot, Ancient Stearns, and Yavimaya. So I didn't actually learn really anything. He seems to be playing a pretty standard Bant Eldrazi list from that. So I just decide to Grape Shot him to death for exactly lethal. Obviously could have cast a lot more spells if I needed to, but there's no reason to waste everyone's time. I'm going to apologize, it was a bit over lethal, but it's basically, if I've learned anything playing this deck, especially in tournaments, with how much back and forth there can be in games, you really want to start playing your combo turn and get it down to less than 2 minutes if possible, which with good micro you can totally do that. So on to game 2, I board in Blood Moon, Thing in the Ice, and basically board out Thought Scours and an Ascension and a Past in Flames, because I'm trying to dodge everything that gets hit by Rest in Peace. And we'll see whether or not that was a good idea or not. I see a Thing in the Ice and an Echoing Truth in this hand. I also brought in the Echoing Truth in case he has something like Leyline or some other, or Worship or something I need to deal with like that. Because sometimes they bring in Worship if you are playing Empty the Warrens, which is what the Thing in the Ice is replacing for me. And I see this hand and it's pretty solid. I can fetch a basic island turn 1. He plays a Breeding Pool and then plays a Hierarch, which is kind of annoying. I draw the Blood Moon I was looking for, so far my game plan's going together. I put the Mom Hugs on top and the Delta on top, so I'm not actually going to be able to draw the second card, which in this case is the Mom Hugs, because I have to fetch next turn if I want to play anything. Plays a Temple and plays a Relic, and then he relics away my Delta. That's the other reason why I like Thing in the Ice, is while Empty the Warrens dodges Graveyard Hate, Thing does just as well, and it just has a bigger body. It dies to less removal. So here I actually just slam a Thing in the Ice, because I'm curious if he'll path it, because if he paths it, I'll be fetching a red-blue land. Instead, he just plays a Matter Shaper and tries to relic away another card, which I just get rid of my fetch land. Here I play the Delta. I probably should have played the Canal, but it doesn't actually end up mattering, because here I just fetch a Steam Vents, which I actually meant to fetch an island here. Go red-blue, and then play the Blood Moon, which I meant to fetch an island, but I misclicked because I'm bad at Magic, I guess. So that leaves me with only one blue. He Stirrings, finds another Relic, which is fine. He can't cast anything aside from some of his blue things off the unless it's off the Hierarch. He plays another Relic, eats a thing. He tries to eat another thing, which I actually leave the Manamorphose just in case I do get a Past in Flames going. Play the Canal, and I just end up Grapeshotting his Hierarch here, basically leaving him without any mana that is usable. And he's just going to eat both cards in my graveyard, but I don't actually need any of them anymore. And then this turn I play the other thing, and I play Desperate Ravings, because I have no reason to play the Ascension. I'd rather actually discard the Ascension, which I am apparently the luckiest person alive, because I discarded the best possible card. Outside of Electromancer, I could have discarded Electromancer too. He exiles Relic again, just trying to get to draw. I don't remember if they play one waste, but it wouldn't surprise me if they do. So I use the Mom Hugs to discard the Electromancer and a Ritual, because I don't really need any of those. I flip one of my things, and then I use I use a Ritual and the other Mom Hugs to discard the last two cards in my hand, drawing 3, none of which I can cast, and then just 14 him. Once you get 2 things online, it's ridiculously easy to just kill them in one turn. Pass the turn back to him and he just dies, which shows that Blood Moon is still a really good card. I'm probably always going to be backing Blood Moon in the sideboard, There's times where it's not really good, but it just allows you to steal games. And with the Thing in the Ice Blood Moon plan, you can actually just hang out for quite a while because you have an inevitability with the things. You can try to set up your other game plans. If they don't interact to the things, they're just going to die in one turn. And if they do interact with the things, you have your secondary game plan, and the Blood Moon just makes everything awkward for them. So overall, I think the deck's not dead. It definitely really hurts in some of the matchups not being able to look at their hand and plan around that. And that's the biggest thing. Like, well, the free draw and, like, the Necro essentially is what it was once you had an Ascension going. While Necro is really good, perfect information with a deck that you know really well and you know your opponent's deck rather well is not something to be looked down upon. There will be games that we will lose now because we just don't know what they have going on, and we have no way to know what's going on, so we're just going to have to jam into things blindly and hope for the best, and we actually have to plan multiple different plays and just be able to go off through more hate, more random hate. Like in the Affinity game where the guy had a Spell Pierce for my Past in Flames. It's possible I wouldn't have played into that, and I would have waited until another turn if I had a probe available to actually check that out. But overall, while I really miss probe, I think the deck's still probably going to be just as good as it was, which isn't saying that much because the deck is still tier 3, if not, that much worse. Gifts, I think, with Brawl, well, people keep saying play Gifts because that's our only option. I think Gifts is actually getting a large bump with Brawl, because every time I play Gifts, I just always get mad that I don't have more, cost reducers, which actually, while we're chatting about that, I'll bring up, as soon as MTGO wants to do. I ended up playing this gifts list, which is really bad. Please don't copy it. It's probably the worst pile I've ever played. So much fun though. Where I actually end up slamming Curious Homunculus because I just want another cost reducing spell. And it turned out being okay. The 3/4 is really good because they can't bolt the 3/4. But the issue is you have to wait till the beginning of your upkeep to flip it. So, unless you go Thought Scour, Manamorphose, Homunculus, it never flips on turn 3, and it's never an Electromancer on turn 3, which is what you want in this deck, and what you want in most Ritual Gifts decks, because the cost if you don't have the cost reducers, the deck has such a high mana requirement that it's really hard to go off otherwise. This one was fun because you have Channel the Suns and Bring the Light. And this feels like it's not my normal list because I usually have a Stomping Grounds in here or something too. But what I'm looking at is basically taking this deck, obviously adding a sideboard, probably going to drop the Ascensions for some other draw spell. Or probably the 4th Gifts, a 3rd Grape Shot, a 2nd Empty the Warrens, and then swap the probes for Brawls, is the plan. I'm not 100% sure yet. Brawl's not quite out on MTGO, so I don't actually get to test any of that yet. But I'm planning on playing a bit of that, and yeah, probably going to start working on some Thing in the Ice Ascension decks, some too, trying to figure out. I think this deck was hurt a lot more by Probe being banned, because this deck really wanted the free spell, kind of like Suicide Blue, is it just really needs that 6th through 8th, I can't count, 5th through 8th free spell. If that just happens to draw you a card and give you perfect information, it's basically the best thing that could ever happen. But we'll see what happens going forward. I'm really liking the 4 Mom Hugs 3 Ravings list. Like, I think that list has potential to be insane just because of how much card draw you have. And what I always tell people on my local shop too is that's part of me being biased because I just really like drawing cards. I always tell people at my local shop that if I play a game against you, whether I win or lose, like if I drew more cards than you, I consider the game a win. Like that's all I want to do is just draw as many cards as possible. Which is part of the reason why I really like this deck, part of the reason why I really like Ad Nauseam decks, both in Legacy and Modern. Yeah, I think that basically covers it. Feel free to always leave comments or questions or concerns or suggestions on how I can make the videos less shit in the comments. I'm not very good at this whole video making thing, and I'm trying to say less, but I can still catch myself doing it every 5 seconds. Anyways, best of luck, keep storming, and kill some guys.